Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Guided by Faith Designs presents Woodworking and Painting in Faith. I have been gone for a bit. I am excited to be back. It is January 6th, I believe, of 2022. And I am very glad that 2021 is gone because it was just a very difficult year. We had a lot of loss in our family. And so ready to put that year behind us and move on. So anybody who would like to know what has been going on this past year, stay tuned to the end of the video and I'll kind of give you a quick recap. For everybody else, we're going to get straight to the painting. So this is a 20 by 24 by 24 level 3 gallery wrapped canvas. And what we are going to do is we're going to do an injection Dutch pour. So I did this painting right here, which I absolutely love, and I'm going to keep for our new house in a couple of years. But I'm going to go ahead, I did not do a video of that one, so I'm going to go ahead and try and recreate it. Just a little bit different colors, but it was an injection Dutch pour. Down in the link below, or down in the description, are all of the mixture ratios. Today's colors, we are doing the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics Primary Cyan. We've got the Artist Loft Metallic Cobalt Blue. Our base coat and our base color is going to be the Liquid Masters Touch Liquid Acrylics Phthalo Blue. Masters Touch Liquid Acrylics Viridian. And then we have the DecoArt Americana Snow Titanium White. Like I said, this is going to be an injection Dutch pour, so I do have these disposable 10 ml syringes that I got on Amazon. And I also have these little taper lock blunt needles. Don't know if I'm going to use these yet. I'm going to wait till I get everything on the canvas. So we are going to flood the canvas first, and then we are going to do our line, and then we are going to inject the colors and blow it out and see what we get. So let's go ahead and get started. Alexa, play K-Love. Hey everybody, so I'm just going to jump in here real quick, and so as you can see, we are filling up these syringes with the paint. It is a pretty thin consistency, which you need for a Dutch pour, so the 10 ml syringes help pull that paint up pretty nicely. There's no, it's not difficult. And then we're just going to put a really nice puddle, a pretty good size, thicker puddle on the canvas. I did add a little bit of extra paint into that smaller cup just to make it a little bit thicker so it wasn't as runny as our base. So that way it didn't just flow everywhere and kind of held its shape. Once we do that, then you're just going to take your needles and you are going to put the needle on the canvas and then just slowly inject your paint. You can do whatever design you want. I decided to go and do a whole bunch of small little puddles and kind of mix it all in together so that way it won't be as muddy whenever we blow everything out. As you can see, each of the paints has its own puddle. I'm not injecting into another puddle. I'm just putting them very close to each other. And then once I go through this, we're going to put a little ring around it, and then we are going to put some more paint kind of starbursting out to kind of give us a little bit more flow and a little bit more movement with the paint. So as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. And okay, back to the music. All right, everybody, we are all done. I am going to leave it just like it is. And so this is one of those that just take your time doing it, really lay out where you want to do your injection pour. And I think it just gives a very beautiful, especially in the center where you do all your injection, it gives us a really good place to start blowing everything out. So we are going to let this dry. As you watched in the beginning, I made sure that I covered all of my sides before we put any other paint other than the base on there. Because you're not guaranteed that you're going to be pulling paint over those sides, so you want to make sure you don't have any bare canvas. Also, before the video, I did not mention that I actually have the entire canvas now on a Lazy Susan. So I just have, and I'll show you this later. I'm not moving it now. I'll show you in a different video. But it's just a Lazy Susan that has a round piece of wood on it. And then I have a larger piece of MDF on top of that to accommodate the bigger canvases. So that way I don't have to reach all the way over and get in the way of the camera, and I can just kind of shift it and make sure all of my sides are covered and everything. So we are going to go ahead and finish this one up. We are going to let this dry. I will do the resining in part 2. I'm going to try and catch up on all of my part 2s and everything. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. Down in the description, all of the paint colors used, as well as the mixture ratios. And then also, if you would like, stay tuned at the end of the video, and I'll kind of give you a quick update on kind of what happened in 2021 and the grief that we had to go through. There was joy, there was fear, there was grief. It was just a really long year. And so stay tuned at the end of the video if you'd like to hear about any of that. But until then, I hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed day. God bless 2022. Go check out my website, guidedbyfaithdesigns.com. I'm relaunching it, getting some new stuff put in there, tumblers, vinyls. I'll be working on all that this week, as well as my thenerdden.com, where I have all my anime and superhero and that other side of the business. So go check those out. Links down in the description. And as always, God bless, and I will see everybody in part 2. Hi everybody, and thank you for staying. First, I want to say they're doing some work across the street. They're building new sidewalk and stuff like that for our neighbors. And so if you hear hammering and stuff in the background, I'm sorry. I am going to try and edit all that out or decrease the background noise, but you might hear some hammering and stuff in the background. But again, thank you for sticking around. So like I mentioned before, 2021 was a pretty difficult year. There was a lot of grief. There was also a lot of joy, and don't get me wrong, there was some really good times in 2021, and God blessed us immeasurably in 2021. But there was also grief, but God can still bless you in grief. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. Is I'm going to kind of give you a quick recap, but also remind you that grief is painful, yes, and grief is a process, and grief is something that everybody at some point in time in their life is going to have to go through. Whether it's the loss of a family member, a friend, a pet, a parent, a grandparent, whatever it is, you're going to experience grief at some point in your life. You will experience loss. It's just a part of being human. If we love something, then there's a chance that we are going to lose it, and that grief is going to be a part of our life for a bit. So as you all know, back in 2020, we lost our beautiful Hanata. She had developed an infection. And by the time we knew she had the infection, because it was a closed infection, and rushed her to the vet, she had emergency surgery, ended up being too late, and she passed away, and which was super hard, and I did a video on that. And so it was hard for me to get back to painting because of that. And then in February, like we had finally processed that and kind of worked through it and moved on, and not moved on from her, but just moved on from our grief, and realized that, again, if you love something, there's a chance that you're going to grieve it. And in January, so, you know, my sister got pregnant in 2020. And in 2021, my nephew was born, which was you would assume would be a very happy and great time, but it was a very, very scary time for us, because he was born 10 weeks early and only weighed 2 pounds when he was born. We almost lost him multiple times. We almost lost my sister multiple times. And just our faith in God, and my sister today still believes that it was everybody's prayers and belief and faith that got her and my nephew through it. And he spent 79 days in the NICU, and in a few weeks we'll celebrate his first birthday, and he is now a happy and healthy and just amazing little boy, which brings us so much joy. His smile can just heal a heart. And so that was just a beautiful, beautiful thing, that God you know, leaning on God and leaning on our faith and everything, that she has no side effects, and she is perfectly healthy now, and my nephew is perfectly healthy. So so we got through all of that, and in April, Dustin and I went on our second honeymoon, which was amazing. We went to the mountains in Tennessee and spent almost a week there, just in a cabin in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, and it was absolutely amazing. And then we went down to see my sister and meet our new nephew, because they live in a different state, and see my mom and my stepdad and all of that kind of stuff. So that was a great time. So again, 2021, there was a lot of joy in 2021 and a lot of blessings in 2021. And in August, we had Comic-Con for the Nerd Den, which is this. I don't know if you can see it. We had Comic-Con for the Nerd Den, which was wildly successful, and God blessed us in so many ways with that, not just with sales and growing that business, but also in the people that we met and the contacts that we made and all of that. And then that's kind of where like the really good stuff stops. So in late August, our little man Kirito, or our big man, we call him little man, but he was a big boy. Kirito was taken from us. Normal routine in the morning, he was outside playing, and I went outside out the front door to grab something, and I saw our gate was open. And we did not know that the latch on our gate, because we never use it, had rusted and ended up failing on us. And Kirito was playing in his tarps, and what we think happened was there was a wasp nest underneath my workbench that we didn't know was there, and we think he got too close, got attacked by wasps, broke through the fence, and ran off in fear, because he was trained not to leave the yard. But he did, and immediately started our search. Called my husband. He came home immediately, and we spent the next week looking for him, and we found his body a week later, about 4 miles away. And unfortunately, as we found out later, it was somebody's evil heart that had taken him from us. He was subsequently shot, just for grins and giggles. Actually, the person thought it would be fun to just shoot him. And we found his body later, which was, I thought, a pain and a grief I would never get over. But God has a way of taking tragedy that he could not control. And some of you are going to say, well, if God is real, then why didn't he stop it from happening? God gives us free will for a reason. And unfortunately, free will played a huge role in us losing Kirito. Because it was somebody's evil heart and somebody's actions and their free will and their choice that took him from us. If that person hadn't intervened, we would have found him. And we would have brought him home, or he would have found his way home. But unfortunately, evil is prevalent in this world, and God protects us as much as he can, but not all of it is preventable. And free will can be very, very cruel. And people can be very, very cruel. But as God does, he was able to take something so tragic and so painful and give us hope and give us love and compassion and stuff out of it. So a few days, of course, looking for Kirito, we had contacted all of the vets and all of the shelters, and we had people looking for him and posts all over Facebook and flyers up, and we were offering $1,000 reward for his recovery, or for bringing him home safe. And one of the local shelters here contacted me a couple of days later and said that they were sorry for our loss, and that somebody had brought in 5 puppies, 10-week-old puppies who had been abandoned on the side of the road. And they were looking for fosters. That a foster called Highway Hounds was going to end up taking the puppies to a rescue up in Nebraska to help keep room in the shelters here open. And they asked us if we would like to foster a puppy. I said 1. puppy for 10 days until the rescue was ready to transport them. I talked it over with my husband, pleaded with my husband because he said we weren't ready. It was too soon after Kitty Toe. It had been like 2 days since we had found his body. And I told him, I work from home full time, and I really, really needed that. I needed that change in routine. I needed to break up what my day-to-day activity was. And so he agreed. And after work one day, the following day, after we said we would adopt one, or foster one, because there was actually no chance of adoption. When we filled out the application, they said they don't leave dogs in Texas. They don't leave pets in Texas. They take them to northern states, and so they can be adopted there. And so we were like, okay, that's the options. We're not going to be keeping them. We're going to foster them. It's going to help us kind of give us some puppy therapy, as they said. And so my husband went, and then all of a sudden I get a text from him that says, hey, I'm bringing home 2. And I said, what happened? And we said we were going to foster 1. And he said, well, I walked into the room and 2 of them ran up to me. So now we're fostering 2. Fast forward to today, the puppies are still with us. We ended up actually being able to foster them. They helped our hearts so much that I told my husband when we were taking them to meet up with highway hounds that I felt like I was starting grief all over again. And God intervened, and he made a path for us to be able to keep them. These are the puppies. Their names are Karma and Kitty Toe. Karma and Kitty Toe. Karma Kitty Toe and Nezuko Hanata. They are named after Kitty Toe and Nezuko, Kitty Toe and Hanata, who we lost. So Karma Kitty Toe and Nezuko Hanata. And they have just been such a blessing in our lives. So that was one of the things that God was able to take something tragic and something terrible and give us something beautiful out of it. And then he also was able to give us, so I contacted my dad after we lost Kitty Toe. My dad sent some beautiful, beautiful words of support and encouragement. And little did we know that 2 months later, his comforting words on Kitty Toe would be used to give us comfort because he passed away. On December 10th, I got a call in the morning from the chaplain of the fire department where my dad lived that he had passed away. I was a daddy's girl. I was very close to my father. And his death brought on a pain that I never thought possible. They had called me first, and so then it was up to me to call my older sister and tell her. And my heart broke for my sister, because unfortunately my dad, who lived in Washington, was on a job. He was a DoD contractor and was teaching and hadn't had a chance to take any PTO to come and meet his grandson. And he had just bought tickets because he was finally able to take some time off and was going to spend Christmas Day with his mom in Dallas. And we were driving up Christmas Day to see him. And then he was immediately flying out to my sister's to meet his grandson for the first time ever. And he died. So I had to call my sister and tell her that our father had passed away, and that her son would never know his grandfather. And then I had to call his sister, my aunt, and his mother, and tell them that he had died. But out of all that pain and all that grief, again, God showed up, as he always does. And no matter what your circumstances are, if you look, God is there. My sister and I both had to fly out to Washington to take care of my dad's affairs, clean out his apartment, meet with his work, his HR, and do all that stuff that you have to do when somebody passes away, especially a parent. And financially, that wasn't something that we were in the position to do. I mean, we had to fly out within 2 days. Tickets were $1,000. And as soon as our church, New Life Fellowship in Belton, and my pastor, who is also my father-in-law, who is also very close to my father, found out about it, immediately prayer started happening. And people started donating money. And in less than 24 hours, we had been given enough money to pay for the flight, and for me, and pay for the hotel while my sister and I were in Washington. Nobody but God can do that. And while we were in Washington, which was extremely hard, walking into your dad's room, who had just died there 2 days beforehand, is a surreal and just strange feeling and strange experience. Taking it all in, seeing his life, seeing where he died. It's just something, it's a feeling that I will never forget, and thank God my sister was there. But during the time that we were in Washington, there was a lot of trial, and there was a lot of obstacles, and there was a lot of frustration. Not just frustration with the fact that my dad is now dead, and my dad is gone, and I'm here wrapping up my 67-year-old dad's life, but just some of the people we had to deal with there was just very, very difficult and very trying. But on the backside of that, again, God always shows up. The people that he put in our lives while we were there made things so much easier. Yes, we had trials and we had difficulties, but the blessings were abundant, and they always are if you look for them. The blessings from my dad's work and his coworkers being so helpful and so loving and so caring, and just going out of their way to take care of us. To the concierge at the hotel who comped our breakfasts, and to the kid at Staples who at 9:30 at night is trying to help us mail off all of these packages, and all of the people standing in line behind us while we're mailing off these 10 packages to our houses with our dad's stuff, being so understanding and so helpful and so caring. All those little things, even the airlines. I flew United, she flew American Airlines, and the process was smooth, and whoever flies without problems. Literally just, it was like God just, and he did. God put a fast track in place for us. And so I tell you all that, and I'm going to keep going back to it to remind you that in the midst of your grief, in the midst of your pain, there are blessings. God is working. God is moving in your life. And just the way my dad died can be nothing but a God thing. Anybody who met my father said that they knew 3 things about him that were unwavering and unquestionable. The first of all was that he was a man of God. My dad had a walk with God that I have never seen before. My father-in-law, who is a pastor, said that sometimes watching how my father walked with God made him question if his walk was enough. And that's coming from a pastor of over 30 years. So first and foremost, my dad was a man of God. My dad was a man of faith. And even his co-workers, he brought 4 of them minimum, got 4 of them saved and brought them to God. Second of all, my father was a man of integrity. You didn't question it. If he told you something, it was truth. He didn't lie. He didn't cuss. My entire life, I am 39 years old, And I think I've heard my dad cuss twice in my entire life. In my life. And both of those words were shit. That is the worst my father ever said. And my dad was a grunt for 10 years. And he was a DoD contractor working with the military for the rest of his life. And yet, and going back to his faith in God and his walk, it's just the way he lived his life. He didn't cuss. He was a man of integrity. And then third is he loved his family. Whenever my sister and I got to my dad's work, they knew everything about us. They knew our careers. They knew my YouTube channels. They knew the name of my sister's practices. They knew the names of our husbands, what our husbands did, because every chance my dad got, he would tell people about his family. He would tell people about God. He loved to tell stories. He loved to teach. My dad was a history guy. He loved to teach. My dad could teach you to build a house because he worked a lot of his life in construction, which is where I get it from, to being able to strip down a tank and teach you how to rebuild it again, and every component in between. And we buried my dad a few days after Christmas with full military honors up in Dallas. I spent my Christmas weekend writing my dad's obituary, which is something I never thought I would have to do at 39 years old. But again, I tell you all this, not because I want sympathy. I don't. I want you to remember that in your hardest grief and in your hardest times, God is there. God will be there to help you and to guide you and to bring you blessings. And those words of encouragement that I said earlier, are this.
So the original text I received from my dad said little bit. Things happen and we have no control of it. None. You can beat yourself up or recognize that like us, every living thing has a life cycle, all by our Creator. Matthew 10:29 states that not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. Embrace the memories that you had with Kitito. I know that you will miss him, but he will always be in your heart. You and your sister are alike, going full tilt from getting up to your lying down. Breathe, evaluate, not criticize, learn, grow, and be at peace as best as you can under the circumstances. All things are in our Lord's hands. I love you, Dad. But as we looked through this text and we only changed 3 words, it now reads, things happen when we have no control of it. None. You can beat yourself up or recognize that like us, every living thing has a life cycle, all by our Creator. Matthew 10:29 states that not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. Embrace the memories that you had with me. I know that you will miss me, but I will always be in your heart. You and your sister are alike, going full tilt from getting up to your lying down. Breathe, evaluate, not criticize. Learn, grow, and be at peace as best you can under the circumstances. All things are in our Lord's hands. I love you. Love, Dad.
My dad sent those words 2 months before he died. Almost 2 months to the day before he died. And again, God used Kitito's death and that tragedy to do 2 things. To bring us the puppies, to bring us Nezuko and Karma, who are going to be significant in our lives and have helped heal our hearts in ways I can't even describe. And it gave my dad the opportunity to give those words of encouragement. Those words are in his obituary. Those words are what helped bring my sister some comfort. Those words are things that I look at every day. And I know at that time, my dad is speaking to me. And so, as God always does, and I know you're going to get tired of hearing me say it, he showed up and he blessed us in tragic times. Because out of Kitito's death, we are now starting what's called the Kitito Project. It's going to be a non-for-profit that is going to train Nezuko to be a grief support dog. Karma too. I don't know if Karma's going to do it. But Nezuko will be trained to be a grief support dog, that we will work with the local funeral homes and local churches to help bring that support and that comfort to people who need it. The Keto project is also going to go to help some of the local shelters get materials that they need and all of that. We will be launching that later this year. We're still working at all the stuff, but that is what God put on my heart, that the tragedy that happened with Keto, that is what we are going to grow in. That is what we are going to make beautiful out of it. And then also Guided by Faith Designs, which is what this channel is based on, is going to now be a non-for-profit. And we are going to be working with our church, New Life Fellowship here in Belton, who supports an orphanage in Kampala, Uganda, called, well, we're actually not putting that out there right now. We don't want the wrong people to get a hold of the information. But we will be supporting an orphanage, which is actually something our church has been doing for the past year. We are going to be supporting them, and hold on, I got a phone call coming in. Okay. Had to stop a phone call. We are going to, again, we're going to be supporting them. A portion of all of the proceeds of all of my paintings, anything sold on guidedbyfaithdesigns.com, any monetization I get from this channel, all of that, all of those proceeds and everything will go to help support the children's orphanage in Uganda. I actually donated probably about 10 of my paintings to our church, and we had a silent auction, and we were able to raise almost $1,000 for the orphanage, so that they could have a Christmas party and bring all of the village in and feed everybody and praise God and all of that. And they sent us a video, and it was beautiful and amazing to watch. And so again, out of tragedy, God is moving, and God is going to take Guided by Faith Designs in a direction that I now feel is where it was supposed to be. And the Nerd Den, which is this, the Nerd Den is also going to help support the orphanage. It's not going to be a non-for-profit. It's just going to be a regular business. But portions of that will go to help support everything happening with the church and the orphanage. It is also going to help support the Keto project and all of that. So I do have another channel that I started up for the Nerd Den. I'll put that link down in the description, where I do all of my nerdy stuff and all of that. So more to come on all of that, but that's kind of where I've been at for the past year. Lots of fear moments, lots of prayer, beauty that has come out of tragedy, and pathways that I don't think we ever would have taken without the tragedy that happened. So the painting that we just did, out of that 25-minute, I think, the painting that we just did that's laying back here, this one is going to be dedicated to my father, and it is going to be called Well Done. I'm calling it Well Done because the way my father died, and I'll go ahead and tell you, is he had a heart attack. But it wasn't one of those grab your chest, fall over, be in pain, be scared heart attacks. Like I said, my father was a man of God. And every night and every morning, my dad read his Bible and he prayed. Every day for pretty much my entire life. That was his process. When they found my father Friday morning, December 10th, he still had his glasses in his hand. And we did have an autopsy done because we wanted to know. And what happened is my dad got done reading his Bible. He closed his eyes to pray. He closed his eyes to pray to God, and when he opened them, God was standing before him. When my dad closed his eyes to pray, his heart fluttered and then just stopped. He had a painless heart attack. He never felt alone. And I mean, who can say that they closed their eyes to talk to God, and when they opened them, God was standing before him? And I take so much comfort in knowing that knowing that he wasn't in pain, that knowing it was painless, and knowing that my dad went as he was talking to God. God called him home. And I know that whenever my dad opened his eyes and stood before God, that God smiled at him as he looked back on his life and everything that he had done for the kingdom. And that God smiled at my dad and said, "Welcome home, David. Well done, my good and faithful servant." So, this painting, this video, is in memory of my father, who set a legacy and example that I will live my life trying to live up to live to the integrity that he lived, with the walk that he lived. So that when I get to heaven and I get to see my dad again, before I see him, that God is going to tell me, "Jean, well done, my good and faithful servant." Please remember that in tragedy, there is always blessings. That joy and hope can come out of grief. I never thought I would feel the pain that I have losing my dad. But I know that as I lean on God, and as I lean on my husband, and on my family, and my sister, and my mom, that I will be able to get through this. Because I know that great things are going to happen. Great things are going to happen with the Kedito project, and great things are going to happen with Guided by Faith Designs, and great things are going to happen with the Nerd Den, and great things are going to happen in my family's life and in my church's life. And God is going to move in a way that we have never seen him move before. And if you hold on to that, and if you believe that, and you get in the word, and you get in prayer, you will have that comfort too. You will have that assurance, and you will have that joy in your heart that is pushing out that pain. And you will be able to get through anything. But get in your Bible, read scripture, get alone with God, get into a church if you don't have one. And just remember that in grief and in tragedy, there is joy and there are blessings. And if you look, God is always there for you. I love you all. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be sharing my life with you again, sharing the paintings. There's so much that's going to happen this year that I can't wait to see God move and see what he does in everybody's life. I love you. I will see y'all in the next video. Dad, I miss you with every fiber of my being. Kedito, I miss you with every fiber of my being. But I will see you again one day. And until then, I love you. I miss you. And God bless all of you.